Welcome to the Fermented Homestead. If you're new here, my name is Anna, and on this channel I'm sharing our journey of learning how to turn our home into a homestead. Recently I posted a video on how we kind of processed our first batch of Cornish cross chickens, and I thought that I would bring you in for a little bit more detail on that. I was curious when I first started kind of how to use these bags, and so I figured I'd just kind of pass along to you guys how to use these bags if you are going to be processing your own chickens at any time soon, and also a different way that you can actually package them up, but I've personally never seen anybody doing. So it was kind of a last minute thing that I figured I'd bring along to go ahead and show you all of these. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to bag them up, and all I did, we processed them all yesterday and we put them in the cooler overnight to let them cool completely. And then, so the next step is to put them in the bags, which I already did, because like I said, that's kind of a last minute thing that I decided to do this after I'd already bagged them up. And so the way that I like to put them in the bag is I roll them up a bit like this, and then I kind of just put my hand, I think you can see it, kind of put my hand underneath here, just like that, and then, you know, head side in first, I guess you would say, you know, butt side out, then you just kind of stick them in. Wing side in first. That might be a better way to just put that. And so I have all the ones bagged up that I'm going to bag up. We have 17, but I only have 13 bags left from the batch that we had. So I'm gonna go ahead and just process these 13, and I'm gonna show you how I'm doing that. So the first thing that we need to do is stuff these birds. And we set aside everything except like the gross internal organs, like the intestines and the gallbladder. Really, that's it. But we set aside the neck, the heart, liver, gizzard, feet, and head. And we use all of those. The only thing that we don't use is the gallbladder, and for ourselves, is the gallbladder and like the intestines and kind of the stuff. But we do set those aside later on, and we've thrown them all in the freezer, separated out, and we're gonna use those later on when we actually get pigs. So at some point, I mean, we have probably about 70, we have like 70 sets of intestines in there. So we're probably at some point, we're gonna end up doing an actual, like a future pig food freezer, I'm sure at some point. So the way that I bag these up, because the primary thing that I use chickens for is broth. And I like to make broth that is exceptionally gelatinous. And so I save all of the connective tissues, all the bones, the joints, anything that I possibly can that has any form of collagen in it, I set aside and I save and I put it in my broth whenever possible. So basically what I do with these chickens, okay, don't get weirded out. It is kind of probably a little bit weird, but whatever. So what I do is I take 2 feet, 1 head, and 1 neck, shove it in there, and bag it up, okay? So you take 2 feet, you want to put a claw side in, one neck, and 1 head. That's it. Okay, so I'm gonna fill all of these chickens up with their various parts. And yeah. And I do have to say, back when I used to, before I actually raised our own chickens, I used to buy the chickens in the store, right? And it would never gel enough. And so what I always ended up doing before, as I've shown you guys in this video here where I make chicken broth, is I usually would put in like 1 pound of chicken feet. And the interesting thing is, I mean, that's a lot of gelatin, that's a lot of connective tissues. And the thing that I have found is that just adding in the head, the neck, and the feet, so just basically just cooking up 1 chicken, and it's a little over a gallon, I say like a gallon and a quart, I would say, of the water to it, and it yields basically the same amount of gelatin. Like, just that. Like, you don't have to have a whole pound. Like, you just need to have a bird that's raised well. Oh no! That one had a lot of liquid in it. Next step in processing these chickens in these bags is you want to kind of get the neck area. You want to get it kind of okay, there we go. So the next step to doing this is you want to kind of get one of the breast corners kind of into one of the corners of the bag, and then I take it over to the fridge, over to the sink or wherever you're dumping stuff out outside at, and just dump the excess liquid in there that I'm sure has accumulated. This is why having a drying rack is really helpful, because then you don't get all this excess liquid that can, I believe, bring about or make freezer burn worse. And the bag that I ordered, the package of bags that I ordered came with this silicone straw. It doesn't work. It just pinches, and so it doesn't actually let any liquid out. It's the dumbest thing ever. So basically what I do, you put the straw. I have this one. I got it. It's a thick, hard plastic straw. I got this with a package of mason lids, basically mason jar lids from Ball. It came with that, and it works perfectly, so I use it. Figured that one out the first time. So I have the water boiling over there, and it's between 175 and 190. It should say on whatever package of bags that you get, it should say the temperature. It's usually about that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sink it in there for 5 seconds. Okay, pull it out. Let it kind of sit there for about 10 seconds, pushing all the air out. Pull the straw out, twist it more, and then put the zip tie on it. So that's all there is to it. You can see it's pretty well sealed in there. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and do that with the rest of these birds, and then I will bring you back at the end and we'll kind of wrap this thing up. It's really not a whole lot to it. So now that I have all of these all processed and in their shrink wrap bags, I mean, they're not perfect, but you know, they'll do the work, they'll do the trick. Basically what I like to do is just to wipe them all off, kind of dry the I don't know, the breast part of it, so that I can write on it. But I just like to know how much they all weigh. Now that we have all of these weighed out, they're all an average, I'd say, of like high 4s, low 5s. And again, I have the, you know, the neck and the feet, the neck, the feet, and the head in there. So that's obviously going to make it weigh more than most, you know, most birds. But actually, I think I'm going to weigh a pair of the stuff in there. So basically all I do is I cut off the ends of these little zip ties, but I leave the tail intact. And that's just for ease of use, so you can carry it around easier. The first batch of these that I did, I cut off the zip ties and the tails, and I don't remember who I saw do that, but I saw somebody who left the tails of the bags on, and I was like, oh, that just makes so much more sense. I think it was Justin Rhodes. It probably was Justin Rhodes. So if you are into making broth as much as I am, then this way of doing it, and if you have, you know, other people who are going to be using this chicken who are, you know, don't mind a little head poking out at them when they bust open their chicken, this is a great way to do it. I really like doing it this way. It's much easier, it's much simpler. It saves on plastic, because I was doing the chicken separately and then doing all the other parts in a separate bag. Like I'd have one bag of like a head, feet, and neck, and then I knew that every time I grabbed a bird, I would grab a package of the I called it like a broth pack, basically. And so now that I've put it all in there, it also makes it so there's less air inside of the bird itself. So maybe will help with the long-term lasting of it, but probably not. So I'm just gonna weigh a set of these, 2 feet, a head, and a neck. So 7 ounces, 7.3 ounces. Can be subtracted from each of these numbers if you want to get an accurate count of it. So it's probably like in the 4s. I don't think any of these are less than 4.7. There's a 4.8. A 4.9. Oh, sorry, there's a 4.4. My bad. And a 4.9. So one would make it under 3 pounds. So it's like, you know, all of them for the most part are in the 4 range without the set of extras added into it. So all I'm going to do with these, since it is a smaller amount, it's only 13 birds, and I have 3 separate freezers that I'm going to put them in. If you're going to do processing a higher amount of these, or if you have like smaller freezer space, maybe if you're throwing them all in one freezer, you might want to put a certain percentage of them in the fridge and then a certain percentage in the freezer, and just to make sure that you don't cool your freezer down too much, just so that it has an opportunity to actually freeze this stuff without warming up everything else that's in your freezer. So I just wanted to kind of give you my viewpoint on this. This is the 4th. Yeah, I think this is the 4th, maybe even the 5th. Yeah, 4th time that I have done this. And so I kind of got a bit of a handle on it, but I'm still fairly new. So I can kind of give some input on things that you don't really think about, basically. And like leaving the tail ends on, and you know, I like to mark them. I marked each one. It's much easier if you have stickers. You don't have to buy the fancy stickers at the store. You can just buy like address labels basically and just write on them. That's my plan. I just haven't done it yet, so I just write on them. Just make sure that the bag is dry, or it won't write on there properly. It won't write on there really at all. And I write on there, like, I have a CC on the Cornish crosses, and then I usually put the date on there. I forgot to put the date, so I'll probably just go through and write the date on there. And then I have Red Ranger female, and then the other ones are, you know, Freedom Ranger, so I put FR. I should have put FR, but I actually put RR, so I put the F on there so that I know that, which batch this is, basically. I'm not super picky with the rotation of all of these. Each one has their own purpose. The original batch of the Cornish crosses, both Cornish cross that I did not add the stuff on the inside, so I kind of saved those ones for Robert. He very much prefers the Cornish cross. It has just a lighter taste and a lighter texture and taste, and he just prefers that very much. And I prefer the Red Rangers because it has a higher fat content and it's just a bit more, not gamier, but it just has more flavor to it, and so I prefer it. Especially because mostly what I do with it is make the chicken broth. Coming up here, I'm going to be canning a batch of chicken broth, not the ones that I usually do with the whole chicken, but the ones, because I boil the whole chicken. I've come up with a new way of doing it. I just boil chicken, straight chicken with apple cider vinegar and salt. That's all I do with my broth these days. And so I always have a set of bones left over that have not fully broken down. And so I save all of those parts and pieces in a Ziploc bag. And so I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna make up another batch of chicken broth, add some spices to it, and then I'm gonna show you guys how I like to can chicken broth. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you learned something from this. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Bye.